Welcome everyone to the Sim Experience 2022 Alwin British Touring Car Championship Round 1. Our first round has finally arrived. And of course, I am joined by Sean Woodgate. I am your commentator Dennis Mitchell, and Sean Woodgate is joining me tonight. So perhaps, Sean, you could say good evening to everyone.
Yes, and good evening to everyone once again. Nice to see a nice number of entrants here at Donington Park for the first race in this championship of the British Touring Cars, and certainly looking forward to giving our version of what's happening out there on track.
Then just a quick roundup of what's happening before we actually go to any live footage. This is round 1 coming to you from Donington Park in Leicestershire in England. Of course, we are not using the full Grand Prix layout. We are using the Donington Park national layout, which is what the official British Touring Car Championship uses. That is a slightly shorter layout. It excludes the boot end of the track, so it's quite a short lap, but very, very exciting nonetheless. And just to let you know what our schedule will be like for the rest of the season, round 2 will be Silverstone, which is also the Silverstone national layout. Round 3 will be from Knockhill. Round 4 will be from Thruxton. Round 5 will be from Oulton Park. I believe that's the island layout. Round 6 will be from Assen. That's the full Assen layout. That'll be probably our longest track of the season. Round 7 will be from Croft, and the final round will be round 8 from Brands Hatch, which will be the Grand Prix layout, not the national layout. And the Assen round, by the way, replaces Snetterton because we don't have a good enough version of Snetterton. I'm not happy with the quality of it. And Assen is used in some of the British racing series, like for example the British Superbikes use Assen, so we've chosen to go with that. So it looks good and races good, and I think it'll make for some really, really close racing. And then also just to let you know what the cars are like for our championship. We have 2 cars to choose from. So currently we have the Toyota and the Infiniti. The Toyota is a front-wheel drive car, a hatchback. The Infiniti is a sedan, a rear-wheel drive hatchback. Both are very similar on torque. They're both around 400 Newton meters. Horsepower-wise, the Toyota is roughly 20 horsepower more at 370 versus 350 to the Infiniti. Weight-wise, is much the same. I'm not sure what's happening, but in the background something has gone wrong with the server. So I'm just going to leave you, Sean, if you could just quickly chat for a brief moment while I go and fix the server.
Yeah, and certainly the interesting thing is going to be both of them have 6-speed sequential gearboxes, so identical there. But the cars, certainly the fact that there are 2 different cars, very different from the previous championship that we ran in the Porsches. Interesting that the Infiniti 20 horsepower less and rear-wheel drive, and the Toyota 20 horsepower more and front-wheel drive. The torque is identical. The Toyota 10 kilograms lighter than the Infiniti, and we'll see whether the front-wheel drive or the rear-wheel drive is going to be the one working with that. Here we have a error on the network.
Yes, so at the moment there was a problem with the server. I'm just quickly restarting the server, so hopefully you can just keep things going for the next minute or 2.
Yeah, as they say in IT, if anything can go wrong, it will at the most inopportune times. And this is British Touring Car Championship, and we are looking forward to a nice big field tonight. I think entries in the practice rounds were around about 20 cars on circuit or thereabouts, and certainly is going to give us a mouthful, literally and figuratively, from a commentating point of view. It's going to be interesting talking about, and I think this is because it's new to everybody. It starts everybody off on an equal footage, depending how much homework they've done and actually gone to practice with the cars. I see in the notes during the week that certain times it was available, so we'll see what the rules do, depending how much curb hopping or not the drivers do, whether they get penalized. Hopefully we don't have the problem that we had at one of the circuits in the end of the Porsche Cup racing, that the penalty system wasn't really giving us a nice workout for the competitors. They were being penalized and they were just not resetting that penalty. But that's in the negative. In the positive, I must say that the graphics are good. I really, really am impressed. The cars that were going around earlier, nice, very distinct graphics. And the guys that have done the preparation to preparing the graphics cars certainly have done very well at it. Donington Park, if one, as Dennis was saying, we don't go to the full layout. In my description, the full layout, it looks as like the lower jaw of a blue whale gets added after the kink. But it's a nice long, well, it would have been a nice long continuous piece of circuit, but there's a kink in it. And then coming back from the furthest point, it's then a series of bends and sweeps. There are only, if I look at it, there's a right-hand corner as you come back towards the straight, and then there's, I just have to apply my maths here, it's probably, you have to turn in about 120, 140 degrees, and then it's straight except for the kink, and then another, so either end of the straight that has the kink in the middle, there's about 120, 140 degree corner, and then 190 degree bend. The rest are all a set of sweeps and curves that I'm sure are going to be testing the drivers to the limit. As I see the cars coming out of the pit lane, I think they are ready to go for qualifying.
Yes, we are now up and running. Qualifying is running. We had a little bit of a glitch there with the server, so I just had to quickly get everyone to rejoin it. So while they are rejoining it, we see all sorts of incidents happening. The guys are rushing to get out now. But the qualifying is meant to be a 15-minute session, but because of the issues we had now, I've given the guys an extra 5 minutes. So they have a 20-minute session. There's about 18 minutes or just under 18 minutes left. So instead of 15 minutes, they've a little bit extra grace, just in case they have troubles connecting. But it is qualifying, and this will set the starting positions for race 1.
Right, so it's very important for those of you that haven't seen the cars. The one that has the longer rear end, it's almost like a car with a boot. It's almost really like a saloon car. That's the Infinity. And then the cars that go straight down from the glass, those are the Toyotas. And it's going to be interesting to see the difference between them.
Definitely. I think it's going to be, certainly from qualifying, it looks like the Toyota seems to have the edge on pace, but it doesn't seem to look after its tyres as well. So we're not sure if that's going to play a part or not. I imagine it will play some part, but we will only see, because in our practice rounds we've had shorter races and we haven't had the same tracks. So I try not to practice on the actual races of the racetracks that we're going to be at. Don't want to give too much away to the drivers. So we will actually see tonight how it all pans out. Of course, race 2 is a complete reverse grid, so it's quite difficult to pass on this track. So if the guys are even a second a lap slow, it might not be quite so easy to get through. As we see, Rian van der Westhuizen hitting the wall pretty hard there, the car bouncing off the barrier.
Yeah, number 69. Lucky for some, in different situation, but
yes,
in hitting the barrier that hard.
So we have 21 drivers currently on track, which I think is our highest we've ever had for R Factor 2. So that's fantastic, and there's still some drivers that have signed up that aren't here tonight because they don't have this track yet. This of course is paid DLC. It is the premium content from R Factor 2, so it looks really good, it drives really good. It is part of the British Touring Car pack, which included these 2 cars and Donington, as well as Brands Hatch. They will tomorrow be releasing a new car, the Hyundai i30. So that should be a nice car, but we won't be using it in the series because everything is already locked down. So for future series, we will definitely include the future releases of the British Touring Cars. They plan to release every single car in the series, so we should at some point have quite a few more cars. But yeah, the track looks really amazing at the moment. It looks pretty real. Absolutely fantastic graphics. And there, as we see going to the bottom of the shot there, Gilly Silver in his Castrol colours. I mean, that car looks really fantastic. Those retro Castrol colours, I think, are my favourite skin at the moment out of all the skins here.
Yeah, certainly looking good.
Let's see if I can find him. Maybe we can have a closer look at that. There's so many cars and it's kind of hard to find him at the moment. Alright, there he is. The slow motion of his car. I just think that skin looks absolutely brilliant. Of course, most of our skins have been done by Rian van der Westhuizen, so thank you very much to Rian for all his hard work and his efforts getting all the skins done for everyone. Some of the drivers have done their own, but pretty much most of them have been done by Rian.
There's an element of Toyota Gazoo racing in that. you do follow Toyota Gazoo Racing. So I
Yes.
wonder whether that's been a motivating factor for him to give those colours. And they do look really, really nice.
Yeah, the standard car that you get has that Gazoo sponsored team as your main team to choice. And something else we're seeing Chris Collison on the screen at the moment. He's currently driving the Toyota. His teammates are both, he's got two teammates in Andrew Holland, who's not here tonight, and Jason Underwood. They're both driving the Infinity. So we're seeing a few teams where the team members are split as to what car they prefer.
Yeah, that's going to make it interesting in the championship within the team, because in any form of racing, the one person you really want to beat is your teammate, and then all the other competitors that are out there. But certainly you want to be quicker than your teammate. And I suppose once your choice is made for the championship, that's the car you're going to run for the whole championship.
That's right, yes. That's actually an interesting thing. That's very true. Your teammate is always the number one person you want to beat. But the reason behind that is because they have equal machinery usually. But when you're in a different car, it's quite strange. You still have that same mentality.
Yeah. So it's kind of to see, well, if I see that Toyota's missing quite a few parts, whether they've made the right choice or not. But 2 weeks, that with a front wheel drive car, you brake with the front wheels as well as turn as well as accelerate. So everything is done with the front wheels, whereas the rear drive, you accelerate with the rear wheels and you turn with the front wheels. So that might be a factor for tyre wear, wheel drive versus the rear wheel drive.
Definitely. I think it'll be exciting to see what happens come the end of the race. Yeah, our shakedown event wasn't as helpful as we were hoping. It was very helpful, but certainly lots of things that happened in there, and tyre wear wasn't one of them. So we were expecting tyre wear to be a big issue and have the Infinities come strong at the end, but they actually never did.
As we're looking at the cars go by, is a 777 Detroit. That Toyota is the way that it should look, and I'll keep an eye open for the one that has body parts missing on the wheel arches, and that's the way that they should not. But both identical cars. The one that's just been into the barriers probably a little bit more than it should.
Yeah. And speaking of the teammates that we brought up earlier, here is Jason Underwood in his Infinity. Chris Carlson was in the Toyota. Looks like Jason's just sort of warming himself up.
Just wondering, looking at the colours, whether he has outsurance in his stable, or is that just a colour team choice?
I wonder. So lots of numbers tonight. So we had 21, we only have 20 at the moment. So someone has not rejoined. Hopefully they will shortly. So currently Chris Collison in pole position from Basil van Rijn, and I believe it's Jean-Ray du Toit in third, and Mornay du Toit, his father, in fourth place. And then Jandre Dupenard, and then Jason Underwood, then Gilly Silver, then Waldo Swiggers, Andre Hildebrandt, Darnie Stander, Richard Cilliers, one of our newer drivers, so welcome Richard, Hilton Nickerson, Rian van der Westhuizen, Julian Bryson, Stan Bezuidenhout, Rudy van der Westhuizen, Wessel Pardun, also a new driver, his first race with us, so welcome Wessel, got you in at the last minute. Then Harvey Goes, Brandon Roberts and Timo Smith. Brandon Roberts and Timo Smith yet to put a lap in. Timo is on track, and I believe Brandon has just gone on track as we see his teammate heading off.
We have just over 10 minutes to go, so still time to get a good lap time in, as one of the brake markers for one of the corners gets moved aside. Not too much of a problem, they'll still be able to see it, but it's just going to be at about a 45-degree angle compared to where they would expect it to be.
Maybe it wasn't quite where you liked it.
Yeah,
that reminds me of a story from Phillip Island many years ago. I forget which bike ride it was, but he was using a brake marker, and it was basically a rock on the side of the road, and he found it harder and harder to brake until eventually he went off into turn one. It turned out it wasn't a rock, it was a tortoise. It was slowly crawling further and further away.
That's a classic. Your brake marker moves by non-noticeable increments. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Mick Doohan. I stand corrected, but it might have been Mick Doohan. It's got a funny tale, that one.
One of my favourite bike racers of all time is Mick Doohan. There's a few that stand out, but I'm not going to wax lyrical about bike racing because, after all, we are doing touring cars tonight. But Mick Doohan was very, very good on the Repsol Honda. My wife says very good looking from the female perspective as well. And of course, after the many accidents that he had, he was doing everything with his hand except the gear change. But he was braking with the one finger, accelerating, clutch. Just the gear change was being done with the boot because injuries that he'd had.
Well, that's an interesting story because some of that technology has carried over into cars. So a lot of cars these days have a hand-actuated clutch. And that all comes from that Mick Doohan incident where everything was moved to his hands because of his injury to his foot. So he used his thumb for a clutch, which also ended up becoming an advantage. So a lot more of the guys ended up using it purely because it was an advantage. His rear brake was on his thumb. So
Yes.
that meant he could position his feet differently and his hands, left and right side was the same, so it became an advantage. So a lot of drivers today are now using hand-operated clutches due to that whole system, and they realize everything can be done with your hands. Of course, Formula 1 cars have it. Most of these modern cars don't even have clutches, but the ones that do often have hand clutches.
I was at East London with Formula V's many years ago when Russell Wood arrived with the first bike in South Africa that had an optical sensor that when you lifted the gear lever, it actually put the engine, it reduced the revs by just enough, like the Porsches had to pull. It did that for you, engaged the clutch, and when you left the gear lever, the car was automatically in gear again. The bike was in gear and going again. So you didn't have to worry about the clutch because the clutch was done optically off the gear change lever.
Yeah, and as you're saying that we see
That's a long while ago.
Timo Smith driving into the barrier
Yeah.
as we're looking through the bridge there.
Now the difference between kilowatts and newton meters is kilowatts is how fast you hit the barrier, and the newton meters is how far you push the barrier backward. Just tongue in cheek.
Yeah, his car's stuck on the track there. The driver's having to all navigate around him. As we see my favourite skin on screen at the moment, Gilly Silver.
Yes, looking really, really nice. The Castrol colours. In days of old, when the outfit that I was commentating with, Voices on Air, we have on the side of our shirts, we have Castrol, and I'm trying to think of the lady's name. It was for many years involved with the marketing of Castrol. For the love of me, I can't remember it. But yeah, their involvement in racing is, of course, very well known. Just looking, other than it telling us we have a yellow in Sector 2 and car number 84 stuck in the middle of the road, just trying to see who that belongs to. It's Smith. So, managed to get it onto the grass, which is out of the way.
Yeah, it's some progress. We see Gilly pitting.
Somebody really...
Oh, it's still stranded there by the looks of things.
Yeah, I think it's just a replay that we've seen. And poor number 17 was taking evasive action, that's Hildebrandt, at speed, and really didn't in the Team Gunston colours, and got himself a really good smack into the barrier in the right front section of that car.
And also just looking at the YouTube channel, we have Lynn Sevenster saying good luck, Jason, Andrew, Chris. Of course, Andrew is away for a week for holiday. We have Franco Eunice, hopefully I'm saying that right, saying lack of commentating, you guys, make it nice, thank you. So thank you as well for joining. And of course, Caroline Yost saying good evening and good luck to everyone. So thank you for joining, everyone.
Yeah, nice to see that somebody's actually listening to the commentary. Always a pleasure, Franco. That's what commentators are there for, is to try and paint a picture for those that can't see the circuit.
It looks like Bjorn has disconnected. As you see, Hilton sliding off sideways there. That looks like it's going to hit the barrier. The front starting to come around. Bang.
This is one of those classical circuits. There's always the argument in Formula One about this guy's his rate of completion of races is so many more than Michael Schumacher or one of the old. And then I always counter the argument, but yes, the modern circuits have big painted sections of tar or Astro or whatever, so you can actually recover the vehicle. Whereas in the old days, all the circuits had gravel strips like this one does, and Donington is a classical circuit. So nice to see they've actually retained the gravel, because I think that's what gives it character. If you were to go in Formula One, that's one thing you do. It's off the track and in the gravel, because no matter how well you drive, unless you keep the momentum going, if you come to a standstill, you don't get out the gravel, full stop. It's as easy as that.
And can you imagine Craner curbs without the gravel? It just wouldn't be the same.
No. So it just adds that to the track.
Yeah, tracks should have limits. That's what I believe. We've also, with the new update, we've set track limits. So drivers actually have a point system that they have to drive by. So per race they have 9 penalty points. If they cut the track, the game determines by how much they've cut and how much of a penalty point they get. So if it's a minor cut, it'll be a percentage of a point, so 0.1, 0.2. But if it's a major cut, so for example going through the chicane, if they were to straight line it and go flat out through it, it would give them a much higher penalty of a 1 or 2 points or something. They have 9 points for the race. If they exceed that, they get a penalty.
Right, so just having a look here, number 99. Is that Basil van Rijn?
Basil van Rijn, it is indeed, yes.
I'm just having a look if that's the...
I mean, look at the sorry to butt in, look at the gap between the top three. 0.026 to second and 0.044 to third. As we see,
well, 0.6 of a second, sorry, 0.6 of a second covers the top 5 and 0.8 of a second the top 6. So within the same second, give or take, are 8 cars up to Swiggers, number 11. So it's going to be very, very close. And also, as you said to me, the first race, 2 races tonight, first race from a standing start, and then the second race from a rolling start, which is again a whole new ball game, I think, to a lot of these competitors. Doing a rolling start, because you've got to stay in position until the lights change color, so or go off. In the old days they used to change color, but nowadays they just go off. And just about 2 minutes of this session is still to go, but it's going to be very interesting, the rolling start in this.
Well, lap times are incredibly quick. We have a field of 21. Unfortunately, Bjorn Buchner's had some connection issues, so he's in and out, so I'm not sure if there's hardware issues, but he hasn't done a relative lap. But effectively, Harvey-Kos in last place is 5.9 seconds off the lead, so that's pretty good for a 20 class field.
Yeah. So, but the top 3 are, if you're going to have a bad throttle start, then, okay, it's changed now, just a good lap come in, I think, there by Van Rijn. So it's now 0.1 of a second. They were 1,000th, no, I lied, they were 100th of a second, the top 3. It's now 0.1 of a second, first, second, and third. So it's very, very close starting. And if you're going to be just a little bit asleep on the line, then that might be you losing that position before you get to the first corner.
And Bjorn Buchner is stuck in a relative time, so he's now currently 18th fastest, so he's no longer 40 seconds off the pace.
That's a bit better. Basil with 2 L's from BZN panel meters. That car, and we see the sectors as well, he's still going quicker in sectors at times, so we could expect something from him tonight. But yeah, with all the fun of the fair, exactly 0.1 of a second quicker than the 737, all that the Boeing of Tatoy, and then another 0.018 of a second further back is Collison, car number 22.
Well, also quite interesting to have the father and son duo doing so well. I know in some of the races, Monet Dutoy, who's the father, had been struggling, but he's right up there at the moment, in 5th place at the moment, so really competitive times tonight. There's a checkered flag has come up, so the drivers will now be finishing their laps.
And both of the Dutoys have numbering in their cars. The 737, of course, the smaller Boeing, which is the most populated aircraft in the sky, commercial aircraft, and then the Boeing 777. That's another one of the Toys, half a second off the race leader. So nothing has changed since I last spoke. Still 0.1 of a second it was between Van Ryn and Toy. Number 99 in first and 737 in second.
It looks like the majority of our drivers have already pitted. Our camera is constantly showing us everyone that's in the pits, so perhaps we can jump to an ad break and be back shortly when we go to race. So we'll be back with you any moment now. Alright, welcome back everyone. We are of course back for race 1 of our championship. Let's now see what is going to happen. Everyone will now be forming on the grid. So this is officially race 1, the first race of our 2022 Alwin British Touring Car Championship, coming to you live from Donington Park National Layout in Leicestershire in England. The drivers will now be heading out on their formation lap. I am your commentator Dennis Mitchell. I am joined tonight by Sean Woodgate.
Good evening to you all, and it looks as though the Toyotas are really filling up the top 5. So hard work to be done by the Infinities to get through and past all those Toyotas. But that's of course another story, whether that's going to happen in the race trim. I lie, number 22, just as it goes past, that's another of the Toyotas. The Infinities are long back. I missed the number of the white car. I think that's the first Infinity, and that's probably down in 6th or 7th position.
Yeah, the Infinity is definitely struggling at the moment. But let's see, their race pace might be better than their qualifying pace. Generally, it seems like their qualifying pace has not been as strong. Let's have a look at the qualifying results while we're talking about qualifying, as they're doing their formation lap. It's just not, give me a moment, something is just not working like it should here. It's always like that at the last moment, there's these odd moments. Right, let's try that again. Let's have a look at that starting grid. So in pole position we have Basil van Ryn from Jean-Ray de Toy, Chris Collison and Jan-Ray Duppenaar. In 5th place we have Monet de Toy, then in 6th place Gilly Silver, in 7th place Jason Underwood in our first Infinity and Waldo Swiggers in our second Infinity. In 9th place, Richard Cilliers. In 10th place, Timo Smits. In 11th place, Brandon Roberts. And in 12th place, Hilton Nickerson. Sorry to cut you off there. We have quite a long field, still quite a few to go.
Yeah.
In 13th, Andre Hildebrandt. In 14th, Donnie Stander. In 15th, Rian van der Westhuizen. And in 16th, Julian Bryce. In 17th place, we have Rudy van der Westhuizen. In 18th, Bjorn Buchner. In 19th, Stan Bezuidenhout. And in 20th place, Wessel Viljoen. I believe rounding out the field we have Harvey Gross for GDR Racing. That is our starting order. As the drivers are slowly weaving, getting themselves ready for the race. Perhaps we can just quickly run through our schedule for the season. So round 1 is this round, Donington Park. Round 2, Silverstone. Round 3, Knockhill. Round 4, Thruxton. Round 5, Oulton Park. Round 6, Assen. Round 7, Croft. And the final round, Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Drivers now get ready to head out. So they're taking to the grid. Sorry, not head out, but get ready to race. Timing things up. You see one of the cars late to the grid.
Makes it in the nick of time.
Alright, let's see. Someone is obviously not formed up on the grid. Oh, there we go. It's now starting, 5 seconds to go. There goes the buzzer. Oh, Harvey starting from the pit lane.
Harvey was battling in the practice as away they go, and certainly not a long bit of the track from the Wheatcroft straight where they start until they get to Redgate. Redgate in one of the just more than 90-degree corners that they got, and now they've got a section of sweeping turns until they get to the old hairpin, which looks as though that's quite sharp. And McLean's is the next one, and then Coppice is the one that actually matters, where they come into the straight again, which is the Starkey straight. But nice racing there. They are certainly getting the foot down, and the Toyotas seem to have it for now, but as we said, anything can and probably will change as we get further into the race.
Well, fantastic seeing such a big field, but yeah, at the moment it's pretty much dominated by the Toyotas at the front, but let's see how the race progresses.
Just a question, in the 20 cars that were that started, how many of them do you have record that are Toyotas versus the Infinities? I think just looking at the track, they rule by numbers as well.
I think it's about 13-7, sort of roughly.
Oh, so there's 2-1 approximate
Pretty
ratio.
much, yeah.
Yeah. Right, that's lap 1. It's over quite quickly.
Yeah, so we're on board now with Dani Stander behind Rian van der Westhuizen. Rian van der Westhuizen's car looks amazing in that black and gold and grey Jack Daniels livery car. It looks really good. I think that's my second favourite livery apart from the Castrol livery.
That's the crane and curves they've just gone through. I'm just following the track, just trying to make sense of where they are. Starkey's Bridge, does that go over anything that don't show the name bridge? This is the Queens?
No, Starkey's Bridge is a broken bridge. It's not completed.
Okay. Through McLean's, then it'll be another right-hander, which will be Coppice. I think that's his Coppice, and then they should be into the Starkey Straight.
Chris Collison already looking to challenge. He's making himself visible there.
I'm one corner ahead of myself. I think this is Coppice now. Oh, they're following. There they get into they put an S into that section.
Also, just a quick check on the YouTube channel. Hello to Willem Steen. We haven't heard from you in a long time. Good to hear you. Glad you're still about. And you say you're thinking of getting racing. It would be great to have you back again. And of course, Marius van Blake saying hello to everyone. It'd be nice to have Marius next week. Will probably be joining us, so that would be great to have him join. So perhaps Willem, if you want to come join next week, just give us a shout and come jump in. You're still part of everything, so yeah, you know where everything is. So always welcome. We should have another 2 or 3 drivers next week, so next week's round should be quite interesting as well. So now I see Timo Smits in 10th place. Now we go to Gilly Silver, just ahead of him in 9th place. Behind Richard Cillier is one of our newer drivers, who's also part of the PZN Panel Beaters, who I think is our biggest team at the moment. I think we have 6 members of the PZN Panel Beaters team.
That's the software actually doing the brake squeal as they get onto the brakes.
Yes, yeah, these cars are really well rendered. The sounds, the feel of them, everything. It's really good. As you see, Julian getting the advantage there on Bjorn. Bjorn running slightly wide there.
The Team Gunstar car didn't get that corner, I think, in the line that it should have been. But look at the top. First position, I think, is away, but then second, third, fourth, fifth is very, very close.
Oh, a little bit of contact there, I think. It looked like nose to tail there. Very, very close racing there.
Yeah, it's going to be tight, and if this is the form of racing that we're going to see in this championship, then we certainly have got our work cut out to keep the people informed as to how they're running, and very interesting stuff at the moment. The cars seem to be all over the show in the qualifying, but now that it comes to the race, they're actually running very, very nicely and sticking to the tarmac. I suppose in qualifying, you want to see how far and how fast you can push the limit. There's one in the area, commentators curse, there's one in the back of each other, that's 412, that's Robert, and I'm trying to see the car that...
Other one is Rian van der Westhuizen.
Yeah, so we used to see, I think, a bit ahead of it, so there's a few parts, that includes a wing, I think. And that's going to that's going to reduce the downforce on that car dramatically. So unluckily when you go into the barrier backwards, that's the first thing that probably will break off is the wing. And let's see if the software is clever enough to detect that that car no longer has a wing. Yeah, so commentators curse. I was saying everything was going so well, and then there came a bit of carnage. I suppose that's inevitable, as they still have about 15 minutes or so in this race to go.
Oh, Gilly getting a good run there. Will he get a pass? He's looking, but I don't think he's got space.
I think he got off onto the gravel, which probably reduced the traction, which meant that to slow the car enough down, steering out of the gravel would slow you down a bit as well.
Look, he's doing his best to not hit the barrier, but it looks like it's just going to hit the barrier.
Yeah, he might be lucky. Unless it's in slow-mo, then he's going to just kiss, just a good nudge.
Well, he should be safe. Car shouldn't be too badly damaged if he can get it going. Oh, a bit of...
there's nudge 1, 2, 3. Two of them made it in that little fracas. The third car is coming round and is losing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. Here goes another brake marker, and I think it's going on pit exit, and whether it's going to stay there we'll have to wait and see. You see green flags again thereafter, so everybody's racing.
I believe that was Jandre Dippenaar, possibly just waiting because he might have felt he had caused that collision, so maybe just waiting for Jason to come back past.
So the front of this field is fast and furious. Now it's less than 2 seconds, the top 3. So if we go a little bit further back, I think that'll change soon. I'm getting the lap scoring off the YouTube display, so I might be 15 seconds or so behind, so something might have happened in the meantime. But even in the middle of the pack, there's Andre going, well, that's in the Team Gunston colours. That car looking really, really good.
Yeah, the Team Gunston colour, I like all the retro colours. The Team Gunston, the Castrol, I really think those look amazing.
Yeah.
We had the Rothmans colours in the Porsche Cups. Those are just, for me, remind me of the days of past racing.
I think it was Team Williams that ran Formula 1 in the Rothmans colours.
Yes.
And the cars that I remember distinctly, and with the pinstriping looked really nice.
You see Stan Bezuidenhout now chasing down Rian van der Westhuizen.
Right, and if you can see a car in front of you, whether it's last or close to last, car number 36, just trying to pick up a position that's running in
18th.
18th position. You're going to fight for that position if you can see it visibly on the road. It makes a big difference if you're running in isolation. I think it was in the Porsches, the race in America, that the race leader was running pretty much on his own, and it didn't make for that exciting a race. I think for him, also for all races for me as a commentator are exciting, but you tend to look for other things to commentate on, like this, where they're right next to each other in the corner and they go in car.
Beautiful.
And, really stunning, competing for that position and making it stick as well down the straight. So looks like that's one of the positions that you can actually go for a change, is coming around that last corner, the Coppice corner, into the straightaway. That's one of the positions to attempt to pass, and that one worked very, very well.
As we have Waldo Swiggers on screen at the moment, currently our top Infinity driver.
And he's in 4th, and that's a big but, because he's about 10 seconds behind Collison, who's only about 1.6 seconds behind the race leader, Basil van Rijn. So we'll have to see whether the top three are going to be challenged later in the race. But very interesting that the Infinity has moved up into 4th position and is flying the flag for the Infinity.
We have 3 DNFs at the moment. We have both Team ECGT drivers out now. Hilton has unfortunately gone off into the barrier.
And
Bouncing a bit there.
Nickerson was in about position 14. So he was on the second half of the grid, of the car, but certainly running it into the barrier is not going to help you much.
No, definitely not.
Team Gunston takes back a position there on Underwood. Is it Jandre de Bernard that's in car number 9?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so trying to pick that number. They go past so quickly. There's 2 cars off the circuit, and the rest of it, the gravel trap, as we say, helping to keep them out of harm and hopefully out of the barrier as well. But we'll have to wait and see whether they make it out into any noteworthy position.
I'm just jotting down the drivers' names in the meantime, just starting to do some prep for the second race. So excuse me if I'm a little bit quiet in between.
I think it's Hilton Nickerson that's, if I look at what's on the window, just a hint to drivers: if you've got a dark background, make the number white. If you've got, I see it's 1 or 2 cars that are running but I think they might have a standard number layout. If I just looked at number 23, I think it was, that went by, they have a white, see there's 737 again, so they've got a white background with a black number, but some of them they're actually difficult to find, and I'll see if I do on it, because it's one of the things that the better we can see your number, the better we can tell you and your the people that are supporting you racing as to how you are doing.
Yeah, some of the guys' skins have got their name on the number plates as well, which is also a great help. Also to the drivers. The drivers know who they're behind, which can sometimes be a great benefit. You know the driver in front of you's driving style, you know how to drive to get the best results.
Yeah, and where to attack him.
I really love those Gunston colours with that gold streak on it as well. It just looks fantastic.
Bjorn's car, certainly.
And that Infinity as well, it's got that sort of colour where it goes around the light, it changes from blue to purple. That looks really amazing.
Julian's car number 26, also looking very good. If we back to one of the Silva's car number 14 in 6th position, one of the Toyotas, which looks as though it is going to be fighting for position soon, and I'm trying to wait until I can see the car ahead of him side on. Bit of a lock up there, car ahead of him. I think it's 777 or 737. Let's see, Silva is 777, so that's the toy that he's going to be chasing pretty soon for that position.
Lots of action, obviously, while they're locking up his front tyres. I believe it was the front right he had locked up there.
I saw it twice actually, and that's certainly also there again. You can see the back. That's nice graphics. You see the black mark come onto the car number 11, and that's in 4th position, or was in 4th. That's fighting it out. Is he going to lose? I think he is, because the next corner is a right-hander, and the Toyota's on his inside. There's the curbs and a bit more.
How he held that is amazing.
Yeah, and certainly I thought he was going to give up the position, but drafting here, or slipstreaming. Drafting is the American word for slipstreaming. Same thing, there's a bit of a nudge, but that was a pass that was never on because the car on the inside had full car length. Although he comes back again.
He's really fighting hard, eh?
Yeah,
this is what makes touring cars so good.
Yeah, and there again a lockup on that right front. So that tire might be crying a little bit with another 7 minutes or so to go. So everything to hold the man honest, and that might be the old story about the 2 guys fighting it out in front, and the third might run away with a bone. But Boulder is fighting hard to hold that position, and his tyre wear is going to be on the brakes and off this time. Just that, and there goes the dog with the bone. As I said that, exact. I've seen that so many times in racing. That guys fighting, I wouldn't say they don't think about the car behind them, but the car behind just bides his time. He sees all of this happening ahead of him, and then there's a change for position. So a great fight that was, and a very different result, I think, it's going to be. But nonetheless, great racing, and it's so close and so tight. And I think now that they've actually slowed each other down to the extent that the car that was behind him, I'm just trying to catch out who it is, that's getting away from them now.
That also now makes the top Infinity no longer Walder, but it is now Jason Underwood.
And he's in position, or he was in position 8, that of course can change as these guys change positions, but certainly everything to race. Even though there's not much of a elevation change on this track, the point that they come out of that corner that was just in the background there, that seems to be very Dutch-like, that they sort of just a little bit of a hill, enough to give you momentum to go down and actually have the straight. Then if you get a good slingshot out of that corner, then you get a good speed coming down the hill. As I said before, a lot of the drivers that I've spoken to in years gone by, they really enjoy Kyalami because there is a very big elevation change.
Yeah. And
that changes the nature of the track completely.
Interesting thing as we look at the back of Basil's cars, there's his daughter's hands on the back of a car.
Okay. Interesting thing going over the top of Basil's car is a 4-engined commercial jet, which are rare items to see nowadays, because all of the 2-engine jets taking now, that you don't see a 4-engine jet much around anymore.
Oh, I see a bit of a collision here.
Yeah, that's Harvey in the front, number 13. Can't forget, don't even have to look. Harvey Gous will be number 13.
Yes. I presume his car is now going to be retired. Looked like he hit the barrier pretty hard. Oh.
Yeah, that's a good shunt. If that was real life, that would be a nice bit of whiplash. But then if you have a Hans device, head and neck restraint, I think, something like that, that's, if you look at where that thing actually became compulsory in, I think it was Dale Earnhardt's collision, it looked actually very little of a collision. It was a 45-degree hit into the barrier wall. But the difference is, and now we're getting into the mechanics of the motion of your head in the car, is if you hit head on, then your chin actually stops your head from moving any further. But if you hit the barrier at 45 degree, there's no chin that is stopping your head, and your head carries on and hyperflexes the head. But I'm not going to get into the... I think it's one of the best decisions they ever made, and in Formula 1, as much as I hate them, the Halo is a life-saving device. And I think the roll cages in these cars, the way they're built, with the cross bracing at the back, very, very well constructed. So a lot of the safety features that the guys have learned over the years through accidents, of course you've got to be using the accidents and doing the analogy or the post-mortem, as it were, hopefully not of the driver but of the collision itself, and see what can we do to make racing safe for the next time. And a lot of the things we see in driving in racing nowadays is a direct result of accidents that have happened previously. Fireproof suits. Well, Zandvoort was the one place I think that made fireproof suits compulsory, even for marshals.
So the button looks like Walder has gone off, and he lost it while trying to come back onto the track. Into the barrier.
Oh, it's a pretty looking barrier, but it's not well placed if you're spinning on the grass, and of course there's no grip on the grass. 2.5 minutes to go, thereabouts.
Jason is trying hard to get past Richard Cilliers here at the moment. It'll be for 6th place, going up the inside.
Yeah, he does it nice and clean. Yeah. And that's interesting to see that was an Infinity. And is that a case of the Infinity now with 2 minutes to go, that the tyres have lasted just that little bit better, that there's not much to fight back, but that the Toyota, the tyre wear is worse at this stage of the race?
Yeah, if that is the case, then the tyre wear on the Toyota being worse is still enough to get you to the end.
Yes.
You're not going to catch a 20-second gap in one lap. Well, not likely.
No. But you're not, as happened in that pass, you're not going to be able to defend the corner as strongly as you would have liked to had you in the early part of the race. There's again number 17. It's a nice little battle going. Is that Julian number 26 ahead of him?
It was, yes.
737 Detour is only 0.4 of a second and catching. Those two Toyotas are going to be at each other's throats. Van Rijn, number 99, right until the end. So
we have 30 seconds to go, so this will be the final lap that they're on.
Yeah. It all seems to be over so quickly. Once it gets going, that there's not to talk about. Do you do trophies after race one or and results for trophies?
It'll be the results are based on the overall for the weekend, effectively. So race one and race two. As we have Basil van Rijn taking victory in race one from Jean-Ray de Toy. In third place, Chris Collison.
Right, so that didn't change over the last lap?
It was close, but you don't know.
Big gap, it'll be Silver number 14 next, and with him fighting very hard, I should imagine number 7 de Toy.
Yes.
Really nice layout to this circuit as you see the guys slowing down at the end of the race. What format do you run time between races for this one, Dennis?
So basically now the drivers will rejoin the server. They will join and I'll have to reset the server. So I will just have the server running, getting everything up and going while we just have an ad break running. Unless you would like to do some chatting in the meantime.
No, I'm all good. It was really a stunning race. And I think if this is what it's going to be like for the championship, then we're in for a thing or two. And even though Basil might have won this one, and not by that great a margin, it's going to be interesting to see what happens and what the guys are able to do to change the Infinity, make it faster to be more competitive against the Toyotas.
Yeah, exactly. Alright, so I think right now I'm going to go and set the server, get everything up and running as best as I can for race 2. Hopefully we have enough time to get everything going. I'm just writing down names as quick as I can, just to make things a little bit more manual, a little bit easier for me. But we will be back as soon as we can, so please stick around in the channel if you are enjoying. Remember to like and subscribe. And we will be back as soon as we can, so yeah, going to an ad break. Oh, sorry, are you going to stick around and chat for a bit, or should I run an ad break and then go for a chat?
No, run an ad break. I can reply to Willem on the YouTube chat.
Alright, let me do that. Okay, going to an ad break. Be back with you just now. Alright, welcome back everyone. Perhaps before we have our overlays coming up, we can get rid of that for now. And welcome back. Of course, this is race 2 from the 2022 Alwin British Touring Car Championship, coming to you live from Donington Park National in Leicestershire in England. So drivers will now be taking the grid slots. It looks like some have possibly missed the start time. They'll have to start from the grid, from the pit. I'm your commentator Dennis Mitchell, and joined once again by Sean Woodgate.
Yeah, a lot of fun. We see one of the... Do they join and stay in pit exit, or do they join at the back of the field?
I think they stay in pit exit. We see all sorts of carnage happening. Guys need to learn to keep their position.
Yeah, so in a rolling start. Here's Harvey. He's going to be stuck in pits as well. There's 1, 2, 3 of them.
Right, so let's perhaps go to our overlays. Let's get that up. And then we can get our starting grid, and we can at least see who's starting where. I can get to that again. Right, so our starting grid for race 2, a full reverse grid. We have Vessel in first place, we have Brandon Robert in second place, we have Hilton Nixon in third, we have Harvey Hoos in fourth. We have lots of guys starting from the pits. Waldo Swiggers in fifth, Stan Bezuidenhout in sixth, Rian van der Westhuizen in seventh, Bjorn Buchner in eighth. In ninth place we have Rudy van der Westhuizen in 10th, Timo Smit in 11th, Andre Hildebrandt in 12th, Julian van der Westhuizen, Julian Bryce in 13th, Jandre Dippenaar in 14th, Darnie Stander in 15th, Richard Cilliers in 16th, Jason Underwood in 17th, Monet Dutoy in 18th, Gilly Silver in 19th, Chris Collison, and in 20th, Jean-Louis Dutoy.
Yeah,
and in 21st, Basil van Rijn.
Yeah, and sorry, I was in one car early. With 3 guys stuck in pit lane, one of them is the tier, one of them is Harvey Hoos, and I can't make out the other one. But that'll change your starting order, and one in the gravel trap. So here we go for the start, I think it is.
And we have the start going. Sorry, I was a bit slow to get things going. The camera was showing every other thing. We want to see this. We don't want to see another car in the background going. This is the silly replay thing that goes into slow-mo while there's action happening. So apologies for that. If we could just go live. So we have safety car has pulled in, and it is completely green for us to go, and it keeps showing us the same replay over and over. We don't need to see the same thing over and over.
Yeah, but we'll deal with it. Hopefully it'll be racing, and pretty soon then we can get back to where we want to be. I've always wondered with a full grid restart, who are the biggest winners out of that, and in my opinion, it's the guys that are actually mid-pack. Or are those the Jack Daniels? Well, one of them is the Jack Daniels car.
That's the Jack Daniels, yes.
Yeah, so, and an Infinity I think is going to go into the barrier. In my opinion, it's the midfield cars that probably have the best benefit from a restart, because the guys at the back are the quickest, but they've got to get through the biggest portion, well, the whole field, whereas the midfield guys are quicker, and they get cars to pass before they can actually be in the lead, and then use those cars that they've passed to actually build up a bit of lead before the quick guys arrive.
That's right, yes. Right, so Jason Underwood, having had a terrible first race, is now sitting in 4th place behind Timo Smit, with his main rival sitting further back in the field. So Basil van Rijn has already worked his way up to 11th. He started from pit lane. That is quite outstanding.
Yeah, certainly going in. That corner looks to me as if the inside, the front right tyre is actually a little bit light on the balance, and if you're on the brakes a little bit too hard, that right front locks up. And we saw that in race 1. The 2 Toyotas, I think, going. There's another rear wing. I think they've both lost their rear wings. Number 4 is one of them. Let's have a quick look. If I know now, 14. Yeah, they took each other out. 737 is the toy. And I'm just
the old saying, 2 into 1 doesn't go.
No. So yeah. Especially not through a sweep. And with a touch like that, the car just becomes very, very difficult to handle, especially if there goes the Gunston coloured car off the track.
This is another thing that drivers need to remember, that Race 2 is also a race of attrition. You're coming through the field. You can't just expect to go from the back of the field to the front. And for the same with the guys that are at the front, they're not usually at the front. They can't expect to just stay at the front. They're going to have guys challenging them. They need to drive a bit more respectfully.
There will be no blue flag because the car in front of you has the position in front of you.
Correct.
It's not that you're lapping him. You have to do your best to get off the racing line and work out some way without being detrimental to both of you to get past him at the right place at the right time.
Oh, and in the background we see Timo Smith losing it there.
So that Infinity got sideways all four wheels.
Yes, and unfortunately that's put him out of play. He was in contention there for a podium position. So Jason Underwood now chasing down Waldo Swiggers. Waldo Swiggers is our current race leader at the moment. We have an Infinity 1-2 at the moment.
Now Waldo's colours from the back. I don't know if it's by design if Waldo runs a BMW, but I think that's BMW M Sports colours. Not I think that he wants to run that on an Infinity, but nonetheless he does, so it's easy to recognise his car, number 11, from the back. And car number 2 is Jason Underwood with him. So the wind has changed direction. If I look at the aircraft are now taking off and coming towards us. So whether that affects the drivers or not. Previously they were flying over the air. Well, I suppose if it depends whether you're running down the back section of the circuit or down the straight in the front.
Yeah.
As I paint myself into a corner.
Oh, that was a close one there with Jason. Just getting it right there. Oh, very close there between them.
Yeah, Jason's really giving it everything.
Sorry, you've got to be careful you don't get a track cut there as well. If you try to avoid the car on the outside and turn a bit tighter, you get a track cut warning.
Yeah. And looks as though at speed, it depends how willing you are, how late to go on the brakes. It looks at speed that Waldo's as quick as what Jason Underwood is. So those two cars are very, very closely matched.
And of course in the background you have the Toyota starting to catch. We have Moene du Toit, and right behind Moene du Toit, Chris Collison. Chris Collison has been setting fastest lap after fastest lap. Current fastest lap for 109.675.
A nice blocking maneuver there from Waldo. That car becoming very wide.
Very wide and very slow.
Yeah, legitimately because he was, but now he's not going to give it up. He still has the slingshot, but he's off limits. That might just all four of the wheels beyond the last of the line and onto the rumble strip with the whole car. So that might just add up to his count of circuit penalties. But nonetheless, we are clicking. But look how close this has bunched. What's at the top 6 now?
Yeah, and of course Basil from Rain is in 6 now, so he's catching right up. We have a penalty for Julian Bryce at the moment.
We didn't see what caused that, but nonetheless. Do they go into pits, do a stop and go, or do they actually have a time penalty?
I'm not sure what penalty he has. He might have a stop go, he might have a drive-through. I don't think it is a time penalty. I think it's either one of the two. Now Gilly Silver also has a penalty.
System's getting strict on them, and I think it's as you said. We spoke about. Don't think that the guy in front of you is going to let you go. You've actually got to use your racecraft to get past him, and use the layout of the circuit, and know where to go wide or where to cut in, and not exceed track limits in doing so. Certainly with 13 and a half minutes or thereabouts to go, this race is proving to be very, very exciting. And Swifters is, well, when we last saw him, was holding on for dear life ahead of Underwood. So,
and catching up to backmarkers now as well, which could be exactly what Jason needs.
Yeah, and there's Harvey. Looks like he just hit. Oh, there's a dip in the road. Is that a drain of some description that Harvey found that nobody else has discovered yet?
Could be.
With no drain cover, and certainly that car took a nasty dive through their both front and rear wheels. But nonetheless.
Let's see it again.
Yes.
We see Julian Bryce is currently in the pits as well, so serving his penalty.
Yeah.
I see it's not a standing time, so it's probably a drive-through penalty.
Which will cost you probably, don't know the circuit layout for the pits, but it's probably 12 to 15 seconds at least.
Yeah.
Now, if this is mid-pack, I'm just trying to catch what number that is. 412. Similar, then this is the lead or what?
I don't know if you saw that, but Harvey losing it there, going between first place and second place there. Oh, sorry,
Which
second
actually,
and third. We've actually had a lead change.
Yes, I think Underwood has actually got past, if that is Underwood. That team has first and third at the moment, if my eyes, yes, in those green and purple colours. And the Toyota's right there with them in the Castrol Racing colours, I think it is. Is this one of the non-Castrol Toyotas?
I think the Castrol one is being lapped. He's a back marker. That's Gilly Silver. He'd come up the pits, I believe.
Yeah. But there, in that set of corners, there were two cars that went off the track and came back onto the track, as it were. So let's see if the system's going to allow that as well. Interesting that this used to be very... I'm just trying to... They actually use the pit exit as a part of the track, so you can actually make the track, you square off this corner by going into the pit exit, well, not into, but you use the pit exit as part of the track and then swing across, so you actually make at a bit of a straighter line than what it was.
So we saw another penalty being handed out to Dutoy. I'm not sure which Dutoy, if it's Monet or Gendre, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that. Currently we have Julian back in the pits again, so perhaps he didn't have a drive-through penalty, or perhaps he was speeding in the penalty and has to serve another one.
I see the Toyota Van Rijn is catching up nicely to the top three, so they more spread out. Yeah, he's into the barrier, and he was doing so well. Yeah, you can see he's got it crossed up. The cars, that's understeer of note. And into the barrier, I'm not sure that the car's going to survive that. So
we have Dutoy in the pits, so one of the Dutoys is now serving his penalty. I believe it's Monet Dutoy. So 10 minutes to go. So lots of action in the race too. Drivers are slowly going to have to learn the process of race 2 and how to get the best results. The best result is not to drive through the pack and cause collisions, because you clearly get penalties for that. You definitely don't want to be involved in a collision, so you need to avoid them.
Yeah.
So drivers will need to learn to be a bit more cautious in their opening laps.
I think there's also an element of, if you know that the guy behind you is a lot quicker than you are, based on the results in race 1, then you need to make the decision, are you going to defend at all costs? Or if it's down the straight and going into a corner, are you going to decide, let me just finish this race in one piece and let him go? So, yeah, each guy has to make his own decision.
We have a fight here for second as well. Chris really fighting off Basil. Basil was alongside him there, but he managed to get a little bit better drive, and as a result, Richard Cilliers is now in the fight as well.
Yeah, very tight racing in the front end of this race, and I must say I like the format. I like the fact that they're different cars. This circuit, specifically in what we've seen tonight, in my mind itself to this form of racing, the sweeping curves, a few sharp corners here and there to allow for overtaking. Is that the Jack Daniels car?
It is, of Rian van der Westhuizen up the inside.
Rian van der Westhuizen, number 6. Yeah.
Oh, Monet coming back at him? No, not quite enough drive.
Yeah, although he's got the inside line on that right-hander, but now it's, of course, a right-left, and he'll be wrongly placed for that. And that's the other thing of a race corner. I'm just trying to circuit. There's one circuit specifically, I think it's Brazil, where it's a classic piece of racing, if I remember it, where Max actually didn't get the pass done for 2 corners, but had the car positioned in his mind for 3 corners ahead. And I'm not sure who he passed either, but it was in the wet, I do remember, and he was one of the guys that was flying. So you have to think ahead, and not only just the corner that's coming. 3 alongside didn't work. So you have to think ahead of where you want the car position for the pass. So that's over the curbs and off the circuit. So whether the system is going to be lenient, we'll see. But the Jack Daniels car, also very recognizable. Van der Westhuizen going along there. Team Gunson car right behind him. All going strong.
Yeah, looking good so far for everyone that has survived. Waldo Swiggers is still in the pits. He's been in the pits for over 2 minutes. At 2 minutes 18 seconds currently. That's for repairs, obviously, for hitting the barrier.
I think everybody's settled sort of into them now. But notice also, I'm not sure if it's mindless imagination, except for, as I think these cars that we see in front of us now, that the cars are more widespread in race 2 than they were in race 1.
Yes, definitely. I think with all the incidents happening.
Yeah. Oh, there's a nudge. That means taking the corner for yourself and not necessarily passing it on merit. Nonetheless, everybody stays on circuit, nobody goes spinning off, and the pass is made. Just trying to see how far back in the pack that is. That's Thunder, number 243, the car behind that got passed, is that Nickerson that got past him.
I believe it is in the blue and white car, yes.
Yes, so everything to race for here, even if it's for the minor placings. And Dennis and I were talking about it between races. It's a weekend combined result, so you might finish third in the one, or no, you might finish fourth in the one race and third in, but actually win the weekend because the other people around you finished worse in combination. So we'll have to wait and see, and it's only after the second race that we actually know who won what. I suppose we could look at the results. Now there's the pass, looking at the YouTube, which is a minute behind. Nickerson getting past Thunder, that's number 135 ahead of 243. That's the pass that we saw happen. 36 is Besaynote, all the way down, I think in 13th position or thereabouts. There's that nice hill that I said, if you get the exit out of that corner at the top right, if you get it correct, then you get a nice run down the hill and through the curves. Nice flowing circuit this is, in the back section. Still all to race for, as number 9 Dippenaar is defending for all he's worth. Somebody else goes off.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic racing so far. And I think this is what I think is going to make this championship great, is look at how the opportunities arise in race 2. The drivers that struggle in race 1 have an opportunity in race 2. And the drivers that are good in race 1, it's also a challenge for them in race 2. So it's kind of fun for everyone. If you're good in race 1, then you've got a challenge that you don't usually have, and that can be fun. And the guys that struggle in race 1 at least have a chance in race 2, so it's good for them. So everyone at least has a chance.
Yeah, it certainly is that. As this S that they go through there, part of the brakes, as I said before, the graphics, not only the visual graphics, but the audio as well. Very, very nice to hear. And when we go in car, nice to hear the gear changes, the change in revs in the engine. And that they pretty much run them in the power band all the time, because I think with these cars being so finely tuned, you can't afford to be off the power at any instant. And the times that they are on the full throttle are a long time. Collison, number 22, really holding on to that position for dear life. Van Rijn behind him, number 99, and that I think is second and third. So those two, a little bit behind them is that Sillier, number 101. That's a little bit further back. So those cars, where is Underwood number 2? How far is number 2 of these two cars?
Oh, number 2 is 2.4 seconds. Sorry, number 2 is 2.5 seconds ahead of Chris Collison. So these guys squabbling away are giving him the chance to stay ahead, because I don't think he had the pace. They would have caught him, I think, if they weren't fighting.
There you can see him now. It's the first time we actually had him visual. He's going through the corner there. You'll see him again going left. And this is second and third that we have in camera now. And we're looking out of the third place car of Van Rijn, trying his best to get ahead of number 22 Collison. Way in the distance there is number 2 Underwood. So Underwood going up the hill there. And this battle, of course, exactly as you said, Dennis, is allowing the race leader to get away. It's about 2.5 seconds, give or take. But they are fighting hard and holding each other up. And also what it means is the person in fourth position, still here, car number 101, is being given an opportunity to catch up to them, because they are defending and attacking. which makes your race pace slower. And we have 2.5 minutes, less than 2.5 minutes to go.
And several DNFs, more DNFs coming through. We even have a DQ that has come through for Julian, so I'm not sure what he did. Perhaps he didn't end up serving his penalty correctly and got a DQ for not serving it.
Do they have a rule that you have to serve a penalty within a certain number of laps?
Yes, you have 3 laps to serve your penalty. But something that does catch the drivers out is serving the wrong penalty. So perhaps he had a drive-through and he was serving a stop-go, or vice versa. But it looked like he was doing a drive-through, so perhaps he actually had a stop-go.
Okay. So, how do the penalties actually get served to the driver in the race? Do they get an audio, or do they get a message?
They get a visual message that pops up on the box on the bottom left. There's a little text box, so anything you have from race direction or anything, any warnings, all pop up there. But sometimes the drivers can't see it clearly and they don't always read it clearly, obviously in the heat of battle maybe, so they don't always check. But once you've got the message and you had the notification, that you can actually read it in your box to the right hand side, which you can scroll through and make sure you serve the right penalty, and most drivers don't do that. As we see Morne du Toit heading off.
Yeah, number 777 du Toit. Going straight on, whether that's fade or brain fade, we won't know. But the battle that is the interesting to watch is number 22 Collison in second and number 99 Van Rijn in third, and this is them. And there you see what I mean. They didn't do it as much this time. They actually, on previous occasions, I've actually seen them take the car and turn it left a touch into the pit exit and then right and into the corner sequence. There's the race leader again, Underwood in the distance, with 40 odd seconds to go, so I don't think they're going to catch Underwood, and my prediction is going to stay exactly the way it is at the moment.
I agree. With 30 seconds to go, I don't think much is likely to change.
I think the battle... What happened to Silvier though? He was so close, and now has off. Must have had an off.
He must have had an off without us realizing, yes.
Yeah,
and, so unless he's just lost pace with tyre wear maybe.
That's also a possibility.
Jason Underwood now coming up to the lap. Stan Bezedert, hopefully this is the last lap, hopefully it doesn't cause any issues.
Flashing lights at him.
But choosing to, Stan moving over for him. Oh, okay, that was nice. Front of second place. Trying his best to keep on the way. And Jason does indeed take race 2 victory with Chris Collison in second place and Basil van Rijn in third. Stan Bezedert, being lapped, manages to at least come across the line with the leaders.
Yeah, I think Silvier lost 10 seconds somewhere because he was so close. And then at the end of the race, it looks like he's lost 10 seconds on Van Rijn.
And then behind him we have Brandon Roberts, then Andre Hildebrand and Hilton Nicholson. Then Dani Stander coming across the line now. Good result for Dani Stander, I think 2 8th places, or an 8th and a 7th possibly. Andre Dupinard in 9th, a good recovery having pitted earlier. Now this toy there as well.
If anybody, that's a bit over exuberant going over the start finish line.
Nicely spun though. Nicely
well held, very well held.
Rian van der Westhuizen coming across now. And then of course Bjorn Buchner in the Team Gunston livery, which looks really amazing.
Yeah. Number 36 is I think everybody's into the pits now.
Yes, I believe that's it. Alright, so we're going to head off to an ad break now and then go look for some drivers for interviews. I will just quickly work out who the top 3 were, get them in for a chat, and then we can just close out with some interviews. So we'll be back as soon as we can, so stick with us. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully everything is working fine. Excuse the long, lengthy delay there, getting points and everything correct so that I could give you the correct breakdown. But that is the end of round one. Round one now completed from our 2022 Alwin British Touring Car Championship, coming to you live from Donington Park National in Leicester in England. I am your commentator Dennis Mitchell, joined again by Sean Woodgate for the interviews. So that is the end of round one. Perhaps we can look at hopefully this is the correct one, apart from the one issue at the top saying shakedown. This is not the shakedown, this is indeed round one from Donington Park. But we don't have third or fourth place available, so we've brought fifth place Richard Cilliers in. So overall we have Basil van Rijn taking victory for round one, from race one victory and race two third place. So Basil, let's start with you. Great race, obviously a first victory in the series and a fantastic drive up to third place in race two and lots of good fighting throughout the field.
Yeah, race one was clean, and I managed to pull a gap on John Ray, and then in the middle of the race he was starting to catch me, but I just managed my tires a bit. But he had some good pace, and then race two of the reverse grid, the first corner, first 5 corners was crazy. But I just followed Chris. I just followed him all the way up. And then the last 3 laps, we had a dice. And it was awesome. Very nice.
Yeah, I guess the guys the more practice they get, will get the hang of a rolling start, because we don't generally do rolling starts. So that's something a little different. And I think it should be, once the guys have the hang of it, it should make for good, close racing.
Yeah, I think if we just practice a bit more. And,
so that's something we definitely will have to do some practice races for rolling starts.
Yeah.
Which perhaps we can do once we get that new Caterham that launches tomorrow.
That can work. Yes, but Jason had some good pace in the second race.
He did. And speaking of which, let's head over to Jason. Jason, a pretty difficult first race, but an excellent second race. You managed to get the win and hold off the guys behind you who were fighting nicely. It allowed you to get away, and you got a victory, the first victory for the season. So one under the bag. So congratulations, you're second in the championship at the moment. So good start so far for Team Harder Racing. Is Jason still with us?
I'm with you. Sorry, I just lost you there for a second. It was race one was pretty intense. We had a little moment there with 2 other drivers, but other than that, it was pretty good. Got myself back up to 6th. I think the Toyotas in a qualifying spec are just that much quicker. So I drove this as hard as I could every single lap. So to qualify 7th, happy with that. Race 2, I knew you had to keep your nose very clean, especially at the start. I knew there were fast guys behind me. So the quicker I got through the 6 guys ahead of me, the quicker I could try and pull a gap, knowing that the Infinity's tyres last a lot longer than what the Toyotas did from speaking to Chris after race 1. So I knew if I could keep a gap or build a gap and then maintain the gap right to the end and don't make any mistakes, there was a possibility for a victory. Race 2 was nice. It was good racing.
Yeah, some good overtakes, and we saw one of your passes on camera that was nice and clean as well. I think it was on Timo Smith. It was a nice move, cleanly done. So yeah, good to see the close racing. There seem to be battles throughout the field. So I think as the guys are getting more familiar with race 2, there will be a lot more battles throughout the field, and hopefully less carnage at the start. Then let's head over to Richard. Richard, congratulations on your 5th place. It's a good start, and also welcome to Sim Experience SA. You're one of our newer drivers, so you've straight away made it up here. You've had good pace. You've also joined the PZN Panel Beaters team, so you are the second driver for PZN Panel Beaters for their team championship points. So congratulations on that, and congratulations on making it to the interviews. So how was the race from your point of view?
Well, it's something new for me, so I enjoyed it very much. And I think consistency is key at the end of the day. I try to drive consistent throughout both races. So yeah, but I enjoyed it very much, and yeah.
Great to hear. Then perhaps, Sean, if you'd like to ask any of the drivers any questions.
We were talking about it earlier. Jason, are you in a team that you run the Infinity and your teammates run the Toyota?
Yeah, that is correct. It's
Oh, that's-
Andrew Hollum, who couldn't be with us tonight. Both of us are in the Infinity, and Chris is in his very trusty, fast Toyota.
Interesting that you've got I'd say an advantage that you know what the tyre life is like in effectively opponents' cars as well as your teammates, and then use that to your advantage in the second race.
Yeah, definitely. I think, didn't plan out that we would be in two different cars. It just worked that way. But as a team, obviously we help each other get faster. That's what teammates do. And yeah, it's good insight to where I can go faster, and where Chris in the Toyota can improve. So at the moment it's working well, but the Infinity needs a little bit more horsepower, and to shed a few McDonald's burgers, I think, to keep up with those Toyotas.
Yeah, I see. They when they hit the barriers backwards, then the rear wing goes flying. But nonetheless, Basil, you had a good race, or good set of races, in fact. So winning it overall, and the track itself. Just thinking about it, there's not that much chance to overtake. Just looking at the track layout. Although we were proven wrong, we saw that there's actually quite a few overtaking possibilities around the circuit. It seems to have a nice flow to it. What was your experience of the circuit?
Yeah, it looks on camera there's not a lot of places to overpass, but if you get a good exit out of the corners, it helps. And then if you just outbrake someone, stay next to him, nice and clean. Wasn't too bad at all. So yeah, it was nice.
Great stuff. And Richard, you say is this a new experience to you, or are you new to sim racing, or the fact that you actually in the interviews after a race?
No, I've been doing racing a lot, but not sim level. So this is my first sim experience I'm driving with a wheel now, everything. I got the wheel about 3 months ago and all that kind of stuff. So this is all completely new for me.
That's great stuff. So just by the way, to you guys, we had, now I don't have the display in front of me at the moment, but we had one of the guys that was sort of looking display, and he'll be joining us for next race. Who was that again, Dennis?
Willem Steyn.
Yeah, so that's one more to compete with. If you happen to win the first race, then that's going to be potentially another car that you're going to have to pass. That's also an interesting question. Jason, since I started joining when you were still running in the Porsches, now we're running in a field. The Porsches were 9, 10, maybe 12 cars at best in the time that I've started. Now we're in a field with more than 20 cars. What a difference.
It's a massive difference, Sean. But it's fun. It's not just get out in front and pull away, or you've got 20 other drivers who are all very quick. If you in that mid battle, you've all got the same machinery. So it is difficult. But that's why we go racing, and that's what we enjoy. We don't want boring races. Like you guys said, another 2 or 3 guys join us next week, which will make it even harder on a reverse grid. But it just you're going to have to get your racecraft out and make moves, make passes. I think there should be an award at the end of the series for who makes the most overtakes.
Well, it goes with your team name. That's Team Harder Racing.
Well, we're going to try as hard as we possibly can.
Right. Well, Dennis, I think you can wrap it up. Break in between. Dennis and I were saying how much fun this was actually for us to commentate on the race. I started trying to keep track of the corners in the early stages of the race on the formation lap, but then the track flows and the camera changes and you lose your bearings. So then you just stick with what the camera shows in front of you. And it certainly has been, with such a full field, has been a lot of fun for me. So thanks to you guys that competed against each other. And Dennis, thanks to you for the opportunity to do the commentating on this formula. And I think this one's going to be a humdinger all the way to the end of the season.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And with at least 4 more drivers joining next week, we'll be up to the 25 driver mark if everyone joins. Possibly 6 more drivers. So finishing first in race 1 it just makes it so much harder. And as the guys get more used to the cars, they'll slowly sort of close the gap to first. It's going to be even harder. And I think on some of the tracks like Knockhill are going to be extremely difficult to pass on. So I think this track is nice. It's actually one of the longer, sort of more flowing tracks, and you can make a pass. Some of the tracks like Knockhill and Croft are going to be a lot harder to make a pass. So I think certain tracks will favour certain drivers a lot better, and race 2 is going to be a lot more difficult for the drivers that are coming through the pack. So I think it will make for good, exciting racing for everyone to watch. And I think as the drivers get more familiar with the cars and driving with each other at these sort of close speeds and close lap times, I think it'll just get better and better.
Yeah, certainly a lot of fun tonight.
So then let's wrap it up with some the usual shout outs. So Basil, would you like to do your shout out first, please?
Yes, just thank you for all the sponsors involved. It really makes a difference. And then also to my team, PZN, to all of the drivers in the team, thank you guys. And then also to Team Harder, thank you for the clean racing. And then, finally to you, Dennis, for you and Sean, thank you for taking all the effort involved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
And Jason, would you like to do your shout out, please?
Yeah, firstly, congrats to Basil. Well deserved. Obviously, and Chris, unfortunately, couldn't be here. Also, Andrew Holland, get back from holiday safely. We need you. It's a big challenge. Thank you to all the supporters back home in South Africa and the ones over here in the UK. And really excited about this championship. So on to next week Sunday. Can't wait.
And Richard, any shout outs from your side?
No, just well done to Basil and Jason and Chris that can't be here. Well done to you guys. You was certainly setting the pace for us. And then to PZN for giving me the opportunity to race for them. Like I said, I'm quite new, but thanks to them for giving me the opportunity.
And thank you very much. I'm going to drop you into other channels, so I will chat to you shortly. All right, so that's our drivers gone. So now we can focus on our next event, which will be coming to you from Silverstone. That'll be the Silverstone National layout, which is also a slightly shorter layout. So that will also make for difficult passing, which would make race 2 quite exciting. So it's also going to produce much closer racing. And I think as the drivers get to grips with the cars, they learn the ins and outs of how to manage the cars. I think the races will get a lot closer. And certainly with tracks like Thruxton that are quite flowing, and Croft that are tight, Assen that is flowing, and then we have Knockhill that is extremely tight. Then we have Brands Hatch, which is another great circuit, which is where we'll finish off. And then, of course, in the middle, we have Oulton Park, which is also a fast track with all sorts of corners, and that'll be quite interesting. So quite a variety. The British tracks certainly do throw up a big variety. So the racing is going to get exciting. We'll have more drivers joining, which makes race 2 more difficult for the guys starting at the back. So I think we're likely to have more variety of drivers on the podium throughout this championship than we have in any other championship, which I think makes it exciting for all. It's just the drivers need to sort of learn the ins and outs of how to avoid incidents on race 1 and certainly on the outlap. You don't need to be going off on the outlap or your pace lap or your warm-up lap, your formation lap. So that's definitely where drivers need to sort of remember that it's only a formation lap. It's not a race lap. Position, you need to stay in position. You need to warm your car up and warm your tires up as best you can so that when the race does start, you're properly prepared.
Yeah, a big factor. We would, while you were getting all the drivers in, I was talking to Basil about it, and certainly I think it's new to all of them. And when they see the red mist, then they think they're racing. But actually, as you said, it's a formation lap specifically for the second race. Everybody's used to the standing start, and the rolling start might be new to some of them. So that's going to be interesting. I'm just looking at the layout for next year, for the next race, Silverstone. There's not much to Silverstone by the looks of it. It's like a triangle with a lumpy bit on the one end.
Yes.
but it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. There are a few corners. If I look at the section, which I should imagine is after the straight, that's a left-right, a long left and then a long right combination and then into a sweep. And I think Cops is also not, as you'll be on the brakes for it, but not as a full-blown corner. Then it's Maggots and Beckett's. And that's a lap done. So that's going to be tight racing. And it's always easy looking at a racetrack as the layout looks on paper. But then when you see it out of the cockpit of a car, then it turns out to be totally different.
Yes.
I think that's also going to be very interesting, how they're going to make that one work. I don't think it's that long, just having a look at it. So you're going to be quite tired, I think, by the end of the race.
Yeah, it's a very, very tight track. I think we'll have sub 1 minute lap times. I think they'll probably be in the 50 odd seconds, 56, 55 sort of bracket, I would assume. So it's going to be quite a lot of laps. So probably 23, 24 laps maybe in a race, or probably 22 or 23. So that will be a lot of concentration, considering there's not that many places to overtake. It's going to be hard work defending all the time. The drivers might sort of make an odd mistake because they lose concentration, and that might be how you make your passing move around that track.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to it until next Sunday.
That'll be it then, yes. So one of the things we haven't done much because of the action tonight is thank Alwin Automotive Glass for helping us. So once again, thank you to Alwin for everything they do for us and for sponsoring us. So if you have any automotive glass or aluminium needs, head over to www.alwin.co.za. And of course, remember, if you like what you're watching, to hit the like button and the subscribe button if you would like to see more. And then next week we'll be back for round 2 from Silverstone, and on Wednesday night we will have the final round of our Assetto Corsa Mazda MX-5 Cup coming to you, I believe, from Misano in Italy. So that should be quite exciting as well. So until then, we will catch you next time. Enjoy your rest of your week. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, Dennis. Have a good evening.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.